The book of Jonah is full of miracle after miracle. God calms a storm. He swallows Jonah in the belly of a fish. He keeps him alive there for 3 days. He has the fish spit him out on dry land. I mean, whoa, okay? But the real miracle takes place in chapter 3, when a repentant Jonah goes to Nineveh to fulfill the call that God originally called him to, which was to pronounce his judgment on them for their wickedness. What Jonah expected was for them to kill him, and probably after some mockery and torture. Rumor has it that people don't like to be told that they're evil. And yet, remember on Monday when we talked about how facing our fears, when we do that, we should do that with a reverent fear of God? If Jonah had stopped to consider the love of God for him and others, he probably would have realized that God had a plan. He wasn't calling Jonah into a death mission. And God's plan was, quite frankly, a miracle. Let's read about it again. This is in Jonah chapter 3. It says, when the king of Nineveh heard what Jonah was saying, he stepped down from his throne and took off his royal robes. He dressed himself in burlap and sat on a heap of ashes. Then the king and his nobles sent this decree throughout the city. No one, not even the animals from your herds and flocks, may eat or drink anything at all. People and animals alike must wear garments of mourning, and everyone must pray earnestly to God. They must turn from their evil ways and stop all their violence. Who can tell? Perhaps even yet God will change his mind and hold back his fierce anger from destroying us. When God saw what they had done and how they had put a stop to their evil ways, he changed his mind and did not carry out the destruction he had threatened. In that last verse, when it says that God changed his mind, that's a little misleading. We have a God who stands outside of time and who knows everything that's going to happen. While that doesn't mean that he determines what's going to happen, it does mean that he acts in accordance with his omniscience. So in other words, God only sent Jonah to the Ninevites because he already knew they were going to repent. He didn't force them to repent, but he knew that if Jonah went to them, they would. So in other words, God wanted Jonah to get to be a witness to that miracle. And he wants us to realize that no one is outside the bounds of God's grace. Is there anyone in your life right now who does not know God and feels so far from him? Why not position yourself to view a miracle by joining in God's work in that person's life through the ministry of prayer? You yourself may even feel far from God. If that's the case, the advice is actually the same. Pray that God would let you be a witness to the miracle he wants to do in you. Jonah didn't know that the Ninevites would repent, and the Ninevites didn't know that God would spare them from destruction. And you don't know what God knows either, but you do know who God is. And that knowledge can give you the confidence to take a step forward in faith to join him by praying for those who are far from him. Who knows? He might respond to those prayers by calling you to take another step of faith. He just tends to do that. But if he does, make sure you're ready.